Hello everyone, this is iconoclastrises. First off, sorry I haven't really been making videos in the last week and a half. I've been a little sick and I've been very overworked. So between those two elements, it's been very difficult for me to get on here and actually let loose with a video that I think is very important to talk about, or topics that are very important to discuss. Because, well, I don't like to just pump videos out there as fast as possible. I like to actually get into things that I feel passionate about, and if I'm just not feeling it at that particular day, I feel like I'm really doing everybody who's listening an injustice, and including myself. I really don't want to get into that, so I would rather just make videos when it feels right. With that aside, the reason I'm here tonight is to discuss something that's been really bothering me, more so than a lot of issues within the social justice phenomena going on right now, and issues on the ultra progressive left. One thing I often hear is that men need feminism too, and in order to achieve true equality, men need to be feminists, because feminism also cares about men's issues. Now, there's a number of problems with that, so I'll just kind of go down the list here in no particular order. One major issue that I see with this argument is the main one that most people talk about, and that's basically saying, yes, men's problems do matter, but women's matter more because they are the more oppressed, and basically once we get all of women's problems taken care of, then we might, we'll balance out men's issues. And if they're not balanced out, we'll work on them then. Now here's the issue with that. There's never going to be a time when feminism or feminists say we've won the battle. There is always going to be some little detail that they call injustice. They won not almost, they've won every right that a man has. And since they are out of those battles to fight, they are now finding other battles to fight. When they run out of serious legal issues to dispute, they move to media, and so on and so forth, down the chain to things as ridiculous as manspreading. So just look at the track record, look at the evidence, you will find that women's issues are never going to be something that they're going to stop talking about, at least in the West. Now, many of us feel that feminism or something like it is very needed in other places. You will find very few arguments from me and many people who kind of think along the same lines as myself. So, feminists, when are we supposed to focus on men's issues, and why do we need feminism in order to solve men's issues? Well, when you actually keep pushing these people and kind of cornering them, they will eventually have to cave and say, well, men have these issues because it's their own damn fault, pretty much. If men are being assaulted at a higher rate than women, well, who's doing the assaulting? Oh, it's men. Let's blame men for that. Men are the ones who are dying on the battlefield overseas. Oh, well, who's killing them? Men. So you see, their solution to solving men's issues is to blame men for their own issues. They cannot look at things objectively. It's impossible for them. They do not have that ability, nor do they have the ability to see the illogical basis behind their mindset. Then again, I do have a theory that a lot of them do see it. They just they kind of have to force themselves to ignore it in order to not let everything unravel around them. Wow, and everything's unraveling around them, as an aside. Now, if you take an organization that is multi-billion-dollar organization, it's a worldwide, let's just focus on the West though. It's spread across entire regions, geographical regions of people and places and locations on a map. It's got its hands in every single industry in this world, every institution in this world, and it is seeking to continue to spread its message. It is a freight train that is just going. There's no way that suddenly these issues will stop and they'll just lay down their ideology. If you take an organization like that has money on the line, that has reputations on the line, that has many people who invested their entire lives into it on the line, do you really think there's going to be a point when they just say, oh, well, we're done? No, they thrive on finding new things to call injustice. In fact, a lot of their theory is based off the fact that there will always be injustice, because to them, our entire world is as an intricate web of sexism and racism that must constantly be broken down. To them, there is no way to escape this prison of sexism and racism. It's always going to be there, because by their logic, we are born into it. And even the little things that we don't notice are sexist and racist. These things that we don't know about ourselves are sexist and racist. There's no winning. There is no end to this. Now, if you take that idea that this is never going to end, and you couple it with the idea of, well, women's oppression is more important because they are more oppressed. If women are always more oppressed, and this oppression is always going to be here, then you will never see feminists get to men's issues. They will say, oh, well, if you fix these problems, your problems will even out. But these problems will never go away because, well, feminist problems will never go away. Therefore, men's problems will never be addressed. They will be expected to have their problems addressed through feminism. And if there is no way to fully address every bit of sexism and defeat it, then there is no way to ever get to men's issues, because it's just not going to happen. If you think that these feminists, most of these feminists, are going to ever say that their struggles are over, or even more so, if they're going to say they were wrong about anything, that their cause is no longer needed, it's going to make them feel very foolish. It's going to make them feel like their lives have been wasted. See, they need this ideology in order to validate themselves, their existences. Now, a lot of what I've said here has been things that you've all probably heard a billion times. This is nothing new. These are not new arguments. I don't claim that they are. However, that needed to be said before I address the male feminists that might be listening to this. This is not for the male feminists that are just going to block everything out, not look at logic, not look at evidence, sit there and never allow themselves to maybe contemplate other sides of a situation and maybe think there might be a point, even if they don't disagree with the greater picture of it. Those types of male feminists can see themselves out. There's a back button, and there's also a dislike button. Go ahead and utilize both of them if you'd like. To all the other male feminists that might be listening to this, I want you to consider a couple of things. The first thing I'd like you to consider is the concept of internalized misogyny. How many times have you heard that term be thrown around? How many times have you heard of any women who do not agree with feminism be told that they have internalized misogyny? Now, I want you to think about what you think of your own gender. I want you to think about the fact that you consider even yourselves oppressors, whether it's willing or unwilling, that you are just born into this toxic masculinity that harms and affects and corrupts and controls everything around it, that you cannot help it by your own logic. Now, I want you to take that idea of internalized misogyny, and I want you to evaluate really what it means. What it means is that women have internalized this hatred of themselves, this hatred of their own gender. They've internalized it, and therefore they themselves are misogynistic without even knowing about it. Well, take your own views on your own gender and think about what that means in comparison to the idea of internalized misogyny. Just let that sink in for a moment. The second thing that I would like you to consider is the fact that you are part of an organization that will never, ever, ever allow you to be proud of who you are ever again. Never again will you be allowed to even look at yourself highly in the presence of women, in their shadow. You will never, ever be able to like yourself or love yourself because, according to you and them, you are a terrible, disgusting monster that wants to sap the life force from everything around you. You are everything that is bad about the human species. You should be extinguished. You should be, neutralized. You represent only carnage, pain, agony, and destruction. You are rape. You are murder. You are battery. You are assault. You are all of these things according to you and them. Do you know who instills that mindset in their victims? Well, it's the same people that you and your feminist friends always preach about. Abusers. What do abusers do? Abusers make the victim feel like they are the worst person in the world. They make them feel like they are at fault for everything that has gone wrong. What has feminism done to you? Made you a victim. They've become the abuser, and you remain as a victim. And you are glad to do that. You roll right over and you take it. This is not to bash you. This is to try and open your eyes to what you might be falling prey to. Because, like I said in some of my prior videos, I really want to try and help people get out of this mindset. I am not here, like a lot of other YouTubers, to only bash what's going on. I'm trying to find a solution, since many solutions have not worked. Explaining logic to you people has not worked. Showing you cold, hard facts that cannot be argued has not worked. So, I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to use your tactics. I'm going to appeal to emotion. And that is what I'm doing with this channel. But yes, there's going to be a lot of logic. There's going to be a lot of leftist bashing. That's going to come with the territory. But my primary concern is to help people get out of this community, if at all possible. The last thing that I want you to consider, male feminists, is that you are not any of these things. You are men. You should be proud of that. Men have built everything within our society. Men have stood on battlefields and sacrificed themselves for those who cannot do the same or will not do the same. Men have stood and fought and died for one another on these battlefields. Men have given up their lives to put people into lifeboats. Men have given up their lives in order to protect their homes, the people they love. Men have constructed the roads you drive on. They've also constructed the architecture that you live within. They have done so many great things, and masculinity is now considered toxic by you because you hate and loathe yourself, because the abusers have won. There is nothing to feel shameful about for being man. There is nothing shameful about for being straight. There is nothing to be shameful about for being the color of pigment, the amount of pigment in your skin. There is nothing to be shameful about these things because they are who make you who you are. They are what make you who you are. Why would you not be proud of yourself for that? Why would you not be proud of the type of people that you are? Everything about you makes up who you are. If you are African American male bus driver, you should be proud of yourself. If you are a Caucasian male construction worker. Be proud of the things that you've done. There's nothing to be shameful about because of what you were born as. This world has gone so fucking insane that it's okay to tell people that they should be shameful of the gender and race that they were born as. And this is talked about in lecture halls with thunderous applause accompanying it. Have we gone fucking off our goddamn rockers? I mean, seriously, there is nothing for you to be ashamed of. Stop letting people tell you that there is. This is craziness. This is self-loathing, hateful, masochistic behavior, and not in a good way. Guys, I don't know how to say this. I feel so bad for people who sit there and hate themselves. I am not proud of myself because of my race. However, I am proud of myself because of my gender. And if I was a woman, I'd be proud of myself because of my gender. Because both genders have gone through really hard struggles, and both genders have accomplished great things. Now, feminists will try to say that women have not accomplished anything because of men. I think they've accomplished a great deal in spite of men. Now, this leads me back to the differences between each side of this debate. See, we will never ever deny anybody a platform. We will never ever blame the actions of a social group on somebody's gender, or the actions of anything on somebody's gender. We will not sit there and try to shame the other gender. And you know what? There's a lot of projecting going on. A feminist trying to turn critique of an ideology into critique of a gender. Because you know why they have to do that? Do you know why they have to put that spin on it? Because it doesn't exist. That's how you can tell a liar from someone who tells the truth. That's how you can tell somebody who's being deceptive from someone who's being genuine. It's the same thing as when creationists have to twist facts around in order to push a narrative against atheists. You see this with all ideologies. You see this Republicans doing this to Democrats, and Democrats doing this to Republicans. But it's all just lies and deception, and so many people have fallen for it, and it's so depressing and so sad. And here's the thing. I mean, a lot of us won't ever admit this, but you know, the things that are being said about certain genders and certain races really fucking hurt. And I don't mean it in the sense of, oh, well, they're saying men are bad people, so it hurts. What I'm saying is when and I made a video about this not long ago, that when you say that, you know, men and white people cannot be discriminated against, you're basically taking our humanity away, and you're opening the doors for people to come in and be able to say anything they want about us, do anything they want to us, and not have to answer for it. And it really hurts when you're looked at as so less a person because of the things that you're born with and cannot control, that nobody takes you seriously and nobody wants to even step in and even say it's wrong. Everyone's saying it's right. No, I mean, how much more discriminatory can it get? How much more, I don't like using the word oppressive because that's retarded, because nobody in the West is oppressed these days. But for lack of better terminology, how much more oppressed can one get in this day and age, in these modern times? So, yeah, I just want you all to realize that you are not the vile people that you think you are. You know, and like, this is me saying something about somebody that I probably disagree with on a great many things. You are not vile people that you think you are, just based off your gender and race alone, and sexual orientation, gender, or however you want, whatever else you want to attach to it. What I do think makes you vile, terrible people is that you're helping push this narrative. And if you don't fully, you know, if you ever catch yourself thinking, you know, maybe there's something else to this, don't just let that fucking thought go, because people will get angry at you if you don't let it go. Explore that. Think on it. I mean, like I said, I mean, we're not the ones who are basically denying an entire gender and racial category or ethnicity. These rights. You're talking about taking rights away, but I mean, we don't even have the right to be discriminated against. We don't have the right to be told that we're right about things. We don't have the right to be on the same playing field as the races. Our opinions and thoughts are considered subpar to them just because we're born a certain way. That's it. That's the only criteria. We're just born this way. Therefore, we don't get these opinions. We don't get to have any thoughts on the matter. And I really don't see, in the West at least, any other form of discrimination that's nearly as bad. At least that's going on such a huge, ongoing scale. So here's the bottom line. No, we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop. It's not going to stop. Never. We're going to continue to resist this. And at the same time, we are never going to take your platform for you. We are never going to blame your actions on any race or gender or factor that anyone can control. And we will never tell you that you cannot say whatever it is you want to say or express whatever it is you want to express. You cannot say the same. Go ahead, look in the mirror right now and tell yourself that you will also never not support doing these things. Really, think about it. Can you really look at a man who is homeless on the street and truly, honestly, I don't mean rhetorically or biting to your ideology. Can you feel within yourself that he has more privilege than the black woman who is driving a Mercedes-Benz, who runs a business out of her home and makes 6 or 7 figures? Can you really look at that man sleeping on the heat vent on New York City streets and tell yourself, this white man is more privileged than this black woman in the Mercedes? Can you really look at a prominent scientist on television that just happened to wear a shirt that his friend made him on TV, probably because he wanted her to see it, that he was wearing her shirt, but maybe not. There's nothing really backing that. Can you look at that and say, because he was wearing that shirt, it was okay for people to try and destroy his life and destroy his livelihood and basically destroy everything that he is just because he wore a shirt that some people might find distasteful? Can you logically say that that's okay? Can you say that that's justice being done? If you can, then I don't ever want to meet you in a dark alley. Can you say, truthfully, that people who would be chased away from the field of science or the field of STEM or any other field for that matter, chased away from it because someone wore a shirt that had women in bikinis, not even naked women, women in bikinis, can you actually say that you even want people like that in these labs deciding our futures? Can you logically say that that makes sense? Now put your social justice mentality aside for a second. Just tell me that makes sense. Does that make logical sense that we have people like those in those positions? Can you logically say that it's okay to have transgendered UFC fighters getting into the ring and beating the shit out of women when they are physically built like a man, when the separation of men and women in UFC was done not because of gender and how you feel about yourself, but because of the way the two different bodies are built? Can you honestly say it's justice to have these men get in there and just pummel the fuck out of these women unfairly? Or even in the Olympics for that matter? Again, I'm talking to your logic here. Can you logically say that's fair? Now, with all these things and many, many more, I'm sure there's a ton of scenarios I could bring up, but I want you to really just question that. Really think about what you're subscribing to. Does this make any fucking sense at all? Really, just think. I want you to just take fucking a half hour, just a half hour, and just think hard on this. And you will see why we all think you're all batshit fucking crazy. Because you had not sat down and really thought about this. You've only been listening to one side get poured into your psyche and you're just absorbing it. You have not allowed any other course of thought. And all the important decisions in your life, I'm sure you think very hard on it, but this one of the most important ones, you don't seem to have any ability to be skeptical. It's really just kind of, a lot of us feel like it might be a lost cause at this point, but it's not, and we know that. Which is why we're not going to stop. It's never going to stop. If you don't want to hear yourself be insulted, don't get on the internet. And if you don't want your ideas critiqued, don't put them out there. Because they're going to be critiqued. And if they stand up to popular opinion, unbiased, then they'll withstand the test of time. And if they don't, they'll be critiqued and they'll soon die. If you don't like that idea, then don't put it out there. So I will leave you with this last thing to think about. I mean, really fucking think about it. Ask yourself 3 things. 1. Would you ever be in support of denying anyone else a platform to speak their ideas publicly? 2. Would you ever think that most of the world's problems can be attributed to the race and gender of a specific demographic or demographics? And 3. Would you ever consider shutting the other side of an argument out for the sake of people's safety and well-being of hearing these things and what these things may cause for the future? Really think about these things, look in the mirror, and answer them honestly to yourself. If the answer is yes, then I urge you to really think about what you're doing. Because we will never do these things. We will always give people their platform, no matter how much we disagree. You'd be very hard pressed to find anyone from our side going against that logic. We will never blame the problems of an entire culture or any problems on a grand scale on the simple base idea of gender or race or any other anything else you want to attach to that. And we will never ever shut the other side of the conversation out. We will never allow emotions to tell us what is right or wrong. We will always demand facts, and we will always provide facts of our own. And if the opposing facts beat our facts 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, we will adopt those new facts. It's the heart of the skeptical scientific mind to do these things. To go about life in this way, which is why most of us are not creationists. This is how we're going to win. This is how we're going to prove that we are better people, that we fight for democracy, that we fight for equality across the board. If you answered yes to any of those 3 questions that I asked, do you really fight for equality? True equality, not just the equality of people with opinions that match your own. I don't think so. And a lot of people will agree with me, I think. Actually, I know. So yes, we aren't going away. We're here. We're here to stay, and we're here to ride out the storm. Because that's all we can do. Because we're not just going to relent. We're not going to give you this crazy utopia you're going for. It's not going to happen. So you might as well get used to it. Anyway, I've been rambling for a while now. I'm happy to be back. And again, I want to thank you all for listening. And this has been Iconoclastrises. Remember to like, share, subscribe. And I really hope you think about what I said. And I really hope you can ask yourself these questions without putting up your defensive barriers. A lot of people in these communities just haven't thought of it this way. So, what do you fight for? Do you fight for equality? Or do you fight for an eternal echo chamber that will always stroke your emotional ego? It's a terrifying future that we're moving into. Most of our major institutions are just toting the line, and I see it get worse and worse every day. There's nothing that we could really say to change your minds. It's not going to happen. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure this video isn't really being viewed by anybody it could really help at all. I'm pretty sure they listened they listened for maybe 30 seconds to a minute and turned it off, which goes into that whole shutting out the other side of the conversation concept I laid down here. I mean, how many feminists have actually fallen physical victim to these death threats and rape threats that you keep hearing about all over their channels? Can you name one news story that encompasses an event where the troll actually carried through on its threats? And I'm not just talking about some Suey Park crap where the feminist reports that this happened, but there's no actual follow-up with evidence to back it. So, again, how many threats of rape and violence have actually been carried through after they've been announced online? Can you find one? And even more so, can you find anywhere that feminist rallies have been targeted to be shut down by those who are against feminists? Can you link me one? I would love to see it. Yet another example of how we are better people for not caving to the same tactics and allowing everyone to have a voice, everyone to speak, and everyone to have a fair chance at equality. And this is not your cue to go into some speech about how women have been denied a voice for so many centuries. You're not going to get off that easy. You're not getting off topic. This is my video, and we're going to stay on topic. So, this may be a good thing, because I might actually get logical feminists listening to this, if any are listening at all, since that is kind of who I'm targeting with this. And here I go rambling again. So, anyway, again, thank you very much for listening. Have a great night.